What's up, guys, and welcome to today's video. Today's video, I am sitting on the porch, and I've got a new knife to show you. Well, not really a new knife. This is a return of an old knife that is new to me. This is my Maxace Covenant V2. My Maxace Covenant was a knife that I did really like a lot back in the day. And it was one of the first high-quality knives I really invested in. I had wanted a Covenant for a really long time. I think the first time I had really wanted it was after watching the I'm Not a Real Boy NRB video on it. He made a video all about the Covenant and how much he liked it, and I was like, ooh, damn, I really want that. So today I have one, and I've had one in my collection previously. I think it might even be in my old 2019 collection video, probably. Either 2019 or 2018. It's in one of the collection videos, but I had it back in the day, and then I ended up selling it, and then I kind of regretted selling it ever since, and so now I had the chance to buy a V2 for a good price, and I bought it. This knife is really interesting to me for multiple reasons. First of all, it's not a fantastic flipper in the sense of what you would consider a standard flipper, right? What I would consider the best all-around flipper is probably the Cracker-Akin, right? It's neutral, it's got channel handles, it's got good grip all over, it's a little bit slippery, but in general, any trick can be pulled off by anybody on a Cracker-Akin, right? It's kind of just the best all-around flipper. However, this guy's a very unique flipper. So it's a little handle heavy. You got these long weights inside of it, and it's very flat. You know, it's a flat and wide knife, so it's kind of square, but also kind of flat at the same time. And I think that that's pretty cool. And so, overall, even though it's not the best flipper in the world, I still find it to be a very compelling flipper. And one of the reasons for that is, not only is it fun to flip, I actually thought that I'd be dropping it a lot more than I ended up. It is smoother, it looks very smooth, and it is very smooth. It's only got these carbon fiber. It doesn't have a hole pattern. It does have some jimping on the sides, which is very helpful for stuff like ladders and, sideways grip tricks and stuff like that. So it is good for that. But overall, it's very smooth, and so it doesn't feel like you'd have a lot of grip. But I gotta say, the carbon fiber works surprisingly well in terms of letting me keep a grip on the knife, while I'm flipping it, which is very impressive. Another thing, too, is that the overall design of this knife is very impressive for the price that it was charged. I ended up buying this one specifically for $300 aftermarket, but these sold for a similar price back when they were new, and they weren't, it's not super expensive, but it's really impressive when you think about, what it is versus what you're getting, right? The price that you're paying versus what you're actually receiving. What you're receiving is something with S35VN with a really nice ground blade. I believe this was not hand ground. It was produced on a grinding machine, but it is a ground blade. It's not a milled blade. And then when you look at the handles, you have these really nice kind of curved handles that have they have a pleasant curve on the top, and then they're flat on the sides. And it's got this really nice high-grade titanium and then carbon fiber inlays, right? That's really high-quality looking stuff. This is a very pretty knife. And when you consider it against some other options, it's a surprisingly high-tier knife in terms of build, versus some of the other things that exist on the market for a similar price. You'd be hard-pressed to find a knife that's this high of quality in terms of its machining and the look of the knife for a similar price. And that has a lot to do with it being produced in China, of course, but it is fully original, and I think that's very neat. The other thing, too, is that the hardware is super high quality. Maxace has been known for a long time of having pretty damn high quality hardware, so you've got T8 bits for these, and then T6 for the hardware down here. I do wish the T6 hardware was T8. I prefer to have at least T8 all over the knife. T6 is too small and strips really easily, but this is high quality T6 hardware. It's just still, it's a little too small for me. But overall, the look is fantastic. You've really got 3 screws per handle that you see on either side. It's running off of bearings. The bearings are a little bit hard to tune. You do need to find the exact spot that is the perfect amount of tightness versus the perfect amount of swing, and then you do need to kind of Loctite it in that area. Or the way that I've been doing it recently is I've been using Teflon tape. So instead of inserting Loctite, I have Teflon tape, and the Teflon tape does a really, really good job of holding the screws exactly where you put it without having to have Loctite. And so this is a really good way that you can kind of do Loctiting your knives without the struggle of having to wait forever for the knife to be secure. But yeah, so that's a quick spotlight on my Maxace Covenant V2. I really like this thing. I really like what it is, what it does, how pretty it is. You know, it's a very beautiful knife. It feels very sturdy in the hand. It feels like it'd be a very, very good EDC. You know, it's got super nice steel on it, so it holds an edge very well. All in all, I just really find the design of this knife gorgeous. And honestly, Maxace is one of the only companies where I would actually keep the latch on this knife had it come with it. Unfortunately, this knife did come without the latch. The previous owner didn't have it. But the latch on this thing was just so nice. It was made completely of titanium, and it was really, really small, and then it had a spring latch system. And that spring latch was like, it didn't impact the flipping performance much at all because of how light the latch was. And so because it didn't impact flipping performance, it was actually kind of nice to have, because then you could, you know, latch the knife. And it always feels good when you have a good spring latch to have your knife and squeeze it and just have that spring pop out. That is a very satisfying feeling. So this is one of the few knives that if I had the latch, I would actually be carrying it with the latch. I can't say that for a lot of knives. One last thing too that I find kind of interesting is that, you know, I enjoyed my V1 back in the day, but I never noticed this before because, well, I never really owned a ELB product before. This feels a lot like my Pro Flipper V1. I have an ELB Pro Flipper V1 that you guys might have seen in previous videos. I did a spotlight on it as well, and this thing feels, flipping-wise, very similar to the ELB Pro Flipper V1, which is pretty freaking cool, because, you know, getting that experience of like a $1,300+ knife for, you know, less than $500, you know, this was $300 aftermarket. That's freaking awesome. So, you know, in terms of the flipping experience, if you're looking for something that flips kind of similar to an ELB product, this is shockingly similar in terms of the experience. I wouldn't say it's similar in terms of the quality. Like, obviously, it's not running on IKBS bearings. You know, it's running on regular bearings. The bearings feel like regular bearings. But in terms of the balance and the feel in the hand, you know, these nice wide, flat, but slightly rounded handles, it's much more similar to the ELB than any other knife in my collection. But otherwise, you know, other than that, it's a very unique feeling knife. The Maxace Covenant V2 and V1 are both very unique knives, and honestly, still to this day, shockingly good flippers. You know, I know they're not everybody's cup of tea, but for me, after I got to flipping this thing for about a week, I fell in love with how it flips, and, you know, it's been one of my go-to pickups in terms of, you know, if I want to pick up a knife and EDC it for a few days, this has been a easy choice for me. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.